So what happened in the 1990s onwards up to this point, where India again started becoming the toast of the world, as it was perhaps during the 1950s and up to the death of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. India's revival again on the global scene, and today the world's biggest powers want to quote us again, want to be allied with us again, want to develop multifaceted relationship with us, want to forge strategic partnerships, want to sign FTAs with us, comprehensive economic partnership agreements with them. We'll talk about these terms as we go on. Abhi to very basics I'm teaching you about foreign policy, right? So what happened in the 1990s onwards up to this point, where India again started becoming the toast of the world, as it was perhaps during the 1950s and up to the death of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. First is the potential for India to become an economic giant. You know, as early as 2003 itself, there were people who were projecting that within a span of few decades, India is poised to become the third largest economy of the world after America, China, and China, right? And the huge market that India represented, and the fact that we had gone for liberalization and globalization, many of the big multinational corporations of the West wanted to exploit, wanted to profit from this big markets. So India naturally, when it rose as an economic giant, or at least showed the potential of becoming a very major economic giant, so this naturally, you know, the Western countries, the developed world started looking at India again. And secondly, this is something which is normally underplayed. Appreciate one thing, that you are developing as an economic giant now, and you have also been recognized as a de facto nuclear power. And the fact that you are becoming an economic giant, and the Western powers and the Western capitalist structures, MNCs, they need you also. That also helped the world to adjust to our nuclear tests, and the fact that we have been now recognized as a de facto nuclear weapon state. Correct. But one important thing that also helped India's case, that is to rising stature, was, I mean, India's pluralism and India's democratic values, you know, contrasted with the fact that when India got independence, there were so many international experts who made such doomsday prophecies and doomsday scenarios they painted. They said this country is not going to survive. Look at the internal conflicts, look at the different languages spoken, look at the different types of religions, and religions which are in the context of near perpetual conflict. India has been born out of that pogrom and that Holocaust-like conditions of partition itself. How can this country even survive? And with such pluralistic values, India has not just survived with pluralistic values, with democratic values, which are somewhat being dented today over the last 5 or 6 years. That part is separate, right? India has not just survived, India has actually thrived and progressed, right? So India's the fact that we are a pluralistic nation, championing democratic values, one of the biggest champions of democratic values in Asia, and when the bigger powers like America are looking for partners, they usually tend to focus on these aspects also, Western countries in particular, right? So pluralistic democratic values. Then the West also today sees, America in particular, that if there is one way in which China's aggressive rise, aggressive nationalism, aggressive posturing, it's revisionism based strategy. Revisionism means that they want to alter the shape of the world, in the sense that, you know what they say is that, for example, I'll just give you two terms over here. India is seen to be a status quo power. Status quo power means, theek hai bhaiya, this is our country now. Some part of China, Kashmir has been taken by China. Some part has been taken by Pakistan. Fine. Formally we say these are parts of India. Correctly so, they are parts of India only. They belong to India. But have we made any deliberate effort, military oriented effort, to actually acquire them back? We only try to defend ourselves when Pakistan tries to do something in Kargil, or what the Chinese are doing in Ladakh, for example. That is all we do. We have no designs on their territory. In fact, we don't even have at this juncture any kind of, even though Home Minister Amit Shah may have said that we will get Aksai Chin also. These are basically political statements, rhetorical statements. There is no plan for that. So India is a status quo power in the sense that we have no designs on anybody's territory. But China has designed any power which is considered a revisionist power. There's another term called revanchism, or revanchist power, or revisionist power, is a power which is trying to again alter the geopolitical scenario, alter the territories around it, claiming everything as their own, including those small islands which are in the geographical proximity of the Southeast Asian nations, Philippines, Vietnam, etc., and where China is conflicting with them and claiming sovereignty over those small islands also, including the so-called Spratly Islands, which I'll talk about later in detail, right? So India is a status quo power in the sense we have no designs on territories of anyone. Leave us alone, we want to progress. Leave us alone to our devices, we want to progress, we want to quote the best possible economic management plan so we can progress and we can bring about unity and solidarity, right? We are not interested in your territory. But that is not the case with China. And China is trying to be aggressive, and China is creating problems not just for Asia, for India, it is creating problems for many Southeast Asian states also, for Japan also, for South Korea also. And in due course, I am telling you, it will create problems for Russia also. That part I will talk about in detail later when I come to Indo-Russia and Indo-Russia relationship in the context of Russia-China relationship. Right. So Russians also fear the Chinese to a good extent. And especially they also feel that Chinese have a lot of territorial designs on Russia, especially the far east of Russia, with which China has a border. And that far east of Russia is very rich in natural resources. And Chinese have a voracious greed and appetite for those natural resources to manage its that behemoth of the economic machine that they have created. Right. So the West sees India now as one of the principal spokes. Without India, there is no countering China. Right. So if China is to be countered, India has to be involved, and not just involved, India has to be involved with a central role given to it. India has to be involved in a big way. So countering China, that further raises the international profile of India, and the fact that India has now become a de facto nuclear power. The fact that our global profile is rising and how important we have become for the Western world, it's always indicated by the policy of America towards us. America went out of its way, and how Manmohan Singh was able to get that Americans never give you a free lunch, right? But that NSG waiver, which was principally because of the pressure generated by Washington on every member of the NSG, 48 member grouping, including China, was the only country which was, before this waiver came in 2008, China was the only country which was holding out right till the end. And Americans even pressurized, somehow manipulated the pressure on Chinese also to make sure they fall in line, and eventually the waiver was given to us. Why would America go to such an extent to accommodate India? When the America-led West, US-led West would feel India is a country with which we need to do business now.